And I'm putting together my own grimoire, I suppose you would call it. It's not a book of shadows. It's more an instruction manual, a reference book, if you like, a personal reference book. I'm very eclectic. I'm not a Wiccan, which is why I don't call it a book of shadows, because I believe that's a truly Wiccan term, and I've got nothing against Wiccans. I think the Wiccan movement, Gerald Gardner and all the rest of that, absolutely brilliant. And I live very close to Burley, spend a lot of my time in Burley. So, birthplace of modern Wicca. Anyway, so I decided that after being many years being a witch and having once upon a time a book of shadows, I called it a book of shadows, I want to put a lot of the knowledge that I had and just general information, not just my own information and the way I do things, but general information about how other people celebrate some things, just so I have a reference and compare my way to other people's ways. So what I have done is I have made myself a post-bound album, and this is it. The basics of the album I actually put together on YouTube and showed how I did it, and then uploaded it. I do believe that if you're putting together a book of shadows or a grimoire or a book of mirrors or a Grimoire, whatever you want to call it, you don't have to be bound by these ideas that it has to be a leather-bound book and you have to handwrite in it. I mean, we're in the modern age now, and as I've become older, my handwriting has deteriorated terribly. I suffer with rheumatoid arthritis and different kinds of arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, fibromyalgia, amongst other things, and so my handwriting has deteriorated. So I like to print out things. I don't want to have to sit there and write out everything. I find it much easier to type. It's easier on my hands and it looks neater. So I'm not using handmade paper. I'm using 140 GSM lightweight cardstock. I think heavyweight paper or lightweight cardstock. I've made my pages in that I have cut them down to a size that I need and then added a small flap here so I can put them in the album. So I haven't had special papers or anything. This has been made with chipboard. We call it grey board here in the UK. Some velvet paper and lots of stuff in my stash. I am a crafter. I love making mini albums, and so a lot of this stuff I had in my stash. Though by the time I have finished making this and putting the papers in and the research and everything else, I think it's going to be up there costing maybe £300 or so. Quite expensive, but considering that if I had this made for me, it would cost me a hell of a lot more, especially with the information that I'm going to have in it. It's going to have about 110 pages or so, and I have actually made it so that these are 4-inch, 100cm, 100mm, 10cm posts, Chicago screws, and I've done it so that I have got some 5-inch ones on order and I can expand them if I want. But that is basically what I like to just call it my book. I don't really have a name for it. My book is what it's going to be, and I've chosen it because I've always been quite a gothic person. I always dress in black, even at my age. The local children call me the Queen of the Witches, which I absolutely love. And so I've basically made the book how I wanted it to be. And I think in this day and age, you need to call upon the skills you do have. Everyone is you know, artistic to a certain degree. I like making mini albums, so therefore that's what I'm using to make my my book. So I've started printing out some pages, and these are on very thin copier paper. It's like, when you can see it's so thin, it's actually printed through. Now, I can't use any of these special programs like Photoshop or anything like that. I'm no good at it. So what I did is I found some paper that I liked, some background paper, printed that off, and then I wrote out stuff that I wanted, typed it out online on Word or similar, and then printed out on top. So it's gone through the printer at least twice. But I want to ink the edges, and I want to make it look a bit better. So, and one of the first things I'm going to have in my book, and is actually Pagan Musings, which is it was written by a man called Tony Kelly of the Selene community in Wales in 1970. And I think even now they're very relevant words. And he was a Wiccan, and so it's quite strange to me saying, oh no, I'm not a Wiccan, but I'm going to have this in my book, because it is very relevant to all paths, and I really like what it says. And this one I've already aged around the edges. So this is what I am doing, and I am going to basically show you very quickly, if I can find my other page. There we go. The actual Pagan Musings, do a search for it online, you'll find it. Do have a look through. It should be English spelling, so the word realise has got an S, not a Z. Things like that. So, and it is long, but you can do a search for it. But I would search one or two, because there may be slight differences, and if you want to get the real one, to compare a few. So what I am doing after printing it out and then going through the printer twice, I'm going to ink my edges first of all with antique linen, and like I said, this is thin paper, so it's quite it's difficult to ink. But as I am a crafter, and this is what I mean, if your if your artistic bent is towards say sewing, then sew yourself a book of shadows or a grimoire, or a book that's relevant to you and the way you live your life. Just my personal opinion, which is what I'm doing. I spend hours upon hours upon hours in my craft room crafting away. So for me to go on from making mini albums to making my own book of shadows in this way seems the right thing to do for me. If you're really good at oh, I forgot what it's called now, etching with heat and fire, you could make yourself perhaps a wooden cover book of shadows or book, and use what you have. I mean, if I didn't have these inks and the ability to print out the pages that I wanted to, I probably would have got this paper and dipped it in tea or coffee, or someone told me balsamic vinegar makes an amazing colour on cheap paper. So there's another one, balsamic vinegar. Not that I would waste balsamic vinegar on paper. I love balsamic vinegar. Anyway, the next colour I'm going around with is tea dye, and I'm being a lot less careful with this. So I'm just going to go round roughly with this one, and I'm using a glass mat here because it's just really good for inking on. A glassine mat or something like that would be quite good as well. Anything like that, but I like to use this because I got it very cheaply, because the measurements are wrong. It's fine up to about 4, maybe 5 inches, and then after that it's completely wrong. So that's it, that's all I'm doing, and then I'm going to glue them onto the page, but I'm going to do that last. I am going to print these pages out one by one, go through what I want, and then sort of like figure out where I'm going to have them within my book, and then put them all in. So this will obviously be like this on a page. So, and I will go through, I mean, I've got the pagan ramblings. I also have obviously my own pagan musings, my own ramblings. I was once asked, did I consider paganism a religion? And this was my answer. And I thought it was quite relevant to how I live. So that's going in my book, and I shall ink the edges of these. And then the Wheel of the Year. And that's as far as I've got so far. I do have everything online. I have to print it out and everything else. So that's going to be it. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy doing this. I'm really looking forward to, over the course of a year or so, getting it done. So I know I rambled on and on and on just for the sake of having a bit of ink on a couple of pieces of paper. But like I said, this may never end up online. I may never share. But, you know, I mean, the book is online. It's on my YouTube channel under my real name, Shalene Hems. If you do a search for Postbound Album tutorial, it will be on there, I suspect. So there we go. That's me. Finished for now. I do love rambling on, and hopefully I'll be back every now and then to show you progress on my book. Thank you for watching if you have. Bye for now.